Have you ever wondered what happens in the exact moment your heart stops beating and the world around you begins to disappear? What I'm about to share with you is not just a story. It's what I saw, what I felt, and what changed everything I believed about life and death. Because I died. And in those minutes beyond this world, something or someone was waiting for me. Stay with me, because by the end of this story, you will never fear death the same way again. My name is Linda. I'm a retired music teacher from Springfield, Missouri, and for most of my life, I believed in what I could see, hear, and touch. I wasn't an atheist, but I wasn't exactly religious either. I sang in a church choir when I was younger, prayed occasionally, but if you had asked me what happens after we die, I would have said, no one really knows. That was before the summer of 2021. It was a hot July afternoon. I remember the way the sun filtered through the kitchen curtains. Soft golden rays dancing across the counter, the scent of cinnamon still lingering from the muffins I had just baked for my grandchildren. My husband, Robert, was out in the garden, humming an old Willie Nelson tune, trimming his roses. Everything felt calm, familiar, safe. But all it took was one moment, one strange flutter in my chest, and suddenly everything changed. At first I thought it was just indigestion. I even laughed at myself, thinking I had eaten too many of those muffins. But then the pressure grew, pressing like a weight inside my chest, as if something invisible was trying to squeeze the air out of me. My hands began to tremble. My vision blurred. I called out for Robert, but the words came out like whispers lost in the wind. The last thing I remember before collapsing was the sound of the birds outside, still chirping cheerfully, as if nothing was wrong. Time stopped. There was no tunnel, no bright light. Not at first. What came was silence. Not the kind you experience in a quiet room, but a deep, vast, all-consuming stillness. I wasn't floating, not yet. I was aware, but not in my body. I couldn't feel my arms or legs, but I could feel myself, my essence, my being. And then something extraordinary happened. The memories, not just my memories, but every moment I had made someone laugh, every moment I had made someone cry, every time I had been kind, and every time I had failed to be. They didn't play like a movie. They lived through me. There was no judgment, only clarity, a kind of understanding that felt more real than any truth I had ever known, as if the fabric of who I was had been gently unfolded for me to see. And yet, I wasn't alone. I didn't see a face, but I felt a presence, a warmth, a love so profound it made me weep, even without eyes. It felt like being held, not with arms, but with grace itself. I wanted to stay in that feeling forever, but just as I surrendered to the peace of it, something changed. A voice, not heard but known, whispered within me, "It's not your time." And suddenly, a pull, a force drawing me back. But I wasn't ready. I tried to cling to that presence, that warmth, that knowing. I felt myself falling, like slipping from the edge of a cloud. Sounds returned, distant, muffled, beeping, crying, a frantic voice shouting my name, the smell of antiseptic, the cold sting of metal against my skin. It was the hospital. But before I could fully return, something else appeared in front of me. It wasn't human, and it wasn't a hallucination. It was watching me, waiting. And what it showed me in that instant, before I opened my eyes again, changed everything. Subscribe and comment your city and say Amen to receive a prayer in the next video. The moment before I was pulled back into my body, I saw something. No, someone. Or perhaps something greater than anything I had ever known. Not a face, not a figure, but a presence. Towering, yet gentle. Infinite, yet intimate. Everything around me dissolved into light, but not the blinding white you might expect. It was layered, like a living tapestry of colors I have no names for. Hues that shimmered like melted opals. Gold that pulsed with life. Violet so deep it felt like I could fall into it. And woven through it all, a warmth that wrapped around me like a familiar blanket on a winter morning. I wasn't floating anymore. I was being carried. Not by hands, but by something that felt like music. It moved through me, not around me. There were no instruments, no melody I could recognize, yet it filled me completely. It was as if every part of who I was, every memory, every scar, every hope, had been given its own note. And they all sang in harmony. I remember thinking, so this is what peace feels like. The air, if it could be called that, felt alive. Not with wind, but with meaning. Every ripple, every shimmer, every vibration had purpose. There were no words spoken, yet I understood. Everything. All at once. The why behind moments in my life I had long questioned. The sorrow I had buried. The people I had loved and lost. It was all clear, not erased, not forgotten, but transformed. And there was something else, or rather, someone else. A little further ahead, through the soft glow, stood a silhouette. Still, radiant. As I moved closer, the light shifted, like curtains parting gently. And then I saw her, my mother. She looked just as I remembered her before the illness took its toll. Her face was smooth, but not young, ageless. Her eyes sparkled with that same playful wisdom she had when I was a child, and scraped my knees on the gravel driveway. But this wasn't just a reunion. It was a recognition. She didn't speak. Her mouth never moved. But I heard her. Inside me. You are safe. You are seen. And you are not done. Those words echoed in me like bells in a quiet chapel. I reached for her, or tried to. But there were no arms. Not in the way we think of them. It was spirit to spirit, pure presence. Around us, the landscape unfolded like memory and imagination merged into one. Fields that shimmered, but not with sunlight. They seemed to glow from within. Trees swayed without wind. There was no time, but everything had rhythm. And the colors. Oh, the colors. Lavender skies that whispered comfort, a ground that pulsed with golden blue under each step, though I never touched it. I simply moved, as if my desire alone guided me. And then came the fragrance. Not like anything on earth. Imagine every flower you've ever smelled, but purer, more alive. There was jasmine, yes, and roses, but they weren't just scents. They were feelings, nostalgia, joy, surrender. They entered me and stirred things I didn't know I had forgotten. In that moment, I began to weep, not from sadness, but from fullness. I was overflowing. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had a spiritual moment that felt bigger than words? And yet there was more. Beyond where my mother stood, I noticed a path, not a road, not even something visible, but I knew it was a path, one I was meant to take. As if this place, beautiful as it was only the threshold. And then, from the horizon, came a sound unlike anything I'd ever known. Not music this time, not voices. It was a call, like the hush before the first drop of rain in a parched land, a presence far greater than even the light, greater than the peace, greater than the reunion. It drew near without movement. It filled everything without consuming. And it knew me. Not like my mother did. Not even how I knew myself. It knew me before I was born. And I knew. This was not the end of my journey. It was just beginning. Because what was about to be revealed would change my soul forever. I stood still, though I had no feet. I breathed, though there was no air. Time stretched out before me like an endless ocean, yet nothing rushed. The feeling was unlike anything I had ever known. Not joy, not awe, not even love as we understand it. It was holiness, pure and untouchable, yet closer than my own breath. The presence approached, but it did not walk. It unfolded. It revealed itself, like a veil being gently lifted from my soul. There was no form, no shape that I could explain to you in earthly terms. If I said it looked like light, I'd be lying. If I said it sounded like music, I'd be reducing it. It was everything, and it was one. I did not see God, but I knew I was in the presence of the divine. Suddenly I was not just remembering my life. I was inside it, living it all again, but this time through the hearts of others. I felt my husband's quiet despair during our worst argument. I felt my son's pride when I hugged him after his first piano recital. I felt my sister's grief the day we buried our father. Something I thought I had consoled, but had merely spoken over. It was like being handed a mirror that didn't reflect my face, but my impact. And then came the questions, not asked aloud, not in words, but they echoed in the center of me, clear as bells. What have you done with the love you were given? Where did you carry light, and where did you choose silence? They weren't accusations. They were invitations. Not to defend myself, but to understand. I saw the days I had wasted, not with laziness, but with busyness. The moments I withheld kindness, not out of cruelty, but fear. The times I could have called, hugged, forgiven, and didn't. Yet even in this raw unveiling, I was not shamed. I was held, not in arms, but in a vast, limitless mercy that flowed through everything around me. Then I saw them, the others. Spirits, beings, souls. I don't know what to call them. They were not people as we see them, but essences of who they once were. I could feel them, not with touch, but recognition. One of them radiated a joy so strong it made me laugh without sound. Another emanated wisdom so deep I felt myself bowing inward. They surrounded me, not in a crowd, but in a communion. No one spoke, and yet I understood. They had come to welcome me, or guide me, or both. Then the space around us shifted, not abruptly, but like a curtain slowly pulled aside. A new place appeared. It was a garden, yet not a garden. The colors breathed. The trees seemed to know I was there. The water nearby sparkled like glass laced with stars, and it made a soft song without moving. I could feel the memory of Eden in it, not the storybook version, but the truth of it, untouched, unfallen, sacred. I was invited forward, not forced, not pulled, simply invited. And I wanted to go. But as I stepped closer, I heard something, faint but unmistakable. My name, Linda. Once, then again. This time not from this realm, but from beyond. From the other side. It was Robert. I felt him, sitting in that cold hospital room, holding my hand. His voice cracked with prayer, with pleading. I saw the nurses working around him, the monitor, the line that had gone flat. He was calling me back. I looked one last time at the garden, and I felt the presence behind me speak again, wordlessly. You may stay, or you may return. But if you return, it will not be the same. I wanted to stay. I longed to stay. But something inside me, stronger than longing, began to rise. A purpose, a message, a mission I hadn't yet fulfilled, and with one final breathless look at the light, I surrendered and began the journey back. What happened next was nothing short of miraculous. The journey back was not a descent. It was a contraction. As if eternity itself was folding gently into something smaller, more fragile. Like slipping into clothes that no longer fit, I felt my spirit being drawn toward the weight of flesh, the heaviness of breath, the limitations of time. I passed through a veil, soft, pulsing with memory, and with every layer, I felt pieces of what I had seen being gently placed out of reach. Not erased, just veiled. As if heaven itself knew that to carry the fullness of that light into this world would be too much for the body to bear. Then came the first sensation. Cold, sharp, sterile, unmistakably real. My skin prickled as air returned to my lungs in one sudden gasping breath. The sound of machines roared back, beeping, hissing, voices layered over one another in urgency and panic. Someone cried out, "She's back!" And a flood of hands surrounded me. I was in a hospital room. My body trembled uncontrollably, as if it too was waking from a deep, ancient sleep. I tried to speak, but my mouth was dry, unfamiliar. My eyes opened slowly, and there he was, Robert, his face crumpled in disbelief, a single tear racing down his weathered cheek. He didn't speak, not at first. He just pressed his forehead to mine and whispered over and over, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." In that moment, the world around me felt both distant and painfully close. My body hurt, my chest ached, my limbs were heavy. But none of it mattered, because deep within, something else was alive. A fire, a light, a knowing. Over the next hours, maybe days, I couldn't tell, doctors came and went. They spoke of cardiac arrest, of flatlines, of miracles. They used words like inexplicable, unexpected, and impossible. But I knew the truth. I hadn't just survived. I had returned with something burning in my soul, a calling so clear it rang louder than any voice in that hospital. Back at home, the world had not changed. The dishes still needed washing, the mail still came, the sun still rose over Springfield as it always did. But I was no longer the same. Every sound was deeper. Every color had weight. Every person, every glance, every handshake. Sacred. At night, I would lie in bed and weep, not out of sadness, but gratitude. I had seen what waits for us. I had touched what holds us. I had been wrapped in the presence of love so vast, no language could carry it. And with that came a responsibility, not to preach, but to live differently, to be the presence I had met, to carry peace where there was noise, light where there was despair, and love, always love, in every small gesture. One evening, as I watched the sunset paint the Missouri sky in ribbons of fire and gold, Robert placed his hand on mine and asked gently, "What did you see over there?" I turned to him, eyes full of tears and wonder, and said, "I saw home, and it's more beautiful than anything we've ever imagined." So now I speak, when someone is grieving, when someone is afraid of death, when a stranger stares into the unknown and whispers, "Is there more?" Yes, yes there is. And one day, we will all remember what our souls never forgot. Say amen in the comments and watch the next video. It may reveal something your heart has been waiting for.